can please ensure to mute your mic so the audio remains clear. When members and officers do wish to speak, can they either use the hand up feature, or by attracting attention on the screen. Just me and Michael having to share a laptop because of some technical issues, so it'll be difficult for myself as to share to see any hands up. So Michael will look after that for us.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I also ask our Committee Secretary, Mike Jones, if there are any apologies for absence for this meeting?
Chair, yes, I believe Councillor Parsons may be unavoidably detained due to a prior personal commitment, which has arisen today, so may well need to submit apologies, in which case please note that. And indeed, Colleen Martin, the Assistant Director, will be joining us later as soon as she's available. Thank you.
I've got apologies for Maria Turner, work commitments.
Thank you.
Can I refer members to the minutes of our last meeting as held on the 4th of November 2020 and as set out in paragraphs 1 to 23 of the agenda? Has everybody seen the minutes? Everybody happy with the minutes? Any matters arising? Sorry? Any matters arising? Can I move that we approve the minutes, sorry, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thanks for interest as well, just remind me.
Sorry, thank you, Michael. Any member got any declarations of interest?
No indications, Chair.
Thank you. Right, can I move on then to agenda item 3, Cabinet members' updates. We now have update reports to consider our 3 Cabinet members. Who wants to go first? Sharon, can you do Cabinet member for Regeneration and Highways?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to go first, Chair?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. So hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to read through the report that's been sent through. The report details some of the key projects that are currently taking place within our parks and green space, and these include the Play Area programme, which is our commitment to deliver new and accessible play areas across the city, Urban Tree Challenge programme, which will see 715 trees introduced across the city too, Green Corridor programmes, which are taking place at Otterspool Promenade and also Liverpool Loop Line, and these will deliver cycling and walking improvements to those routes, but also protect habitat and increase biodiversity. The report also gives an update on highways, also noting the response to the current storm Christopher, also around the highways investment programme that's taken place within the city centre connectivity scheme, but also within the communities, and also around our pop-up cycle lane programme, which the report sets out what the vision and commitment is to introduce 7 pop-up temporary cycle lanes across the city. And the report also states, provides information on parking activities that are taking place not only within the city centre but within our communities, and also outlines that we are looking to work with ward members to increase that activity within communities, because obviously we are aware that people are experiencing challenges during this time, and we're very, we welcome feedback on areas that we need to have enforcement activity. The report highlights the very successful alleyway improvement programme. The scheme has been so well received, and it adds that additional value around bringing communities together with that community engagement, but also that civic pride. So we've seen a fast improvement within the areas, increased recycling rates as part of the work that continues to deliver those improvements. There's also an update on the work that we're doing around school streets. The current e-scooter trial, which is a 12-month trial, and I've just included some key facts around the trial, but also an update in terms of where we are, because we have expanded up to over 600 scooters. And then just finally, there's information on Liverpool Market, We're currently carrying out a review of our market offer across the city. We've had some great success in community markets that have been delivered last year, and we want to build on that offer. And then just finally, just details on Liverpool's Active Travel Forum. We're currently reviewing the Active Travel Forum terms of reference. And again, we welcome members to get involved in the work that's taken place. It's currently chaired by Councillor James Roberts, and it is cross-party, and it's also, you know, members of the public and people who are engaged in promoting active travel. And then just to also add, in terms of going forward, I will start to provide more information around the work that's being carried out as part of our partnership for Merseyside Regional Flood and Coastal Risk Management. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Just before I bring the chair in again, just for the benefit of members, you will have seen a message appear on your screens advising you that the meeting is now being recorded. It's just for the benefit of ensuring the accuracy of the minutes. Otherwise, I'll revert to the chair now, who's aware that we have 3 indications so far of potential speakers. Chair.
I can't see you there.
We have Councillor Kris Brown firstly, followed by Councillor Anna Key, and then Councillor Daniel Barrington.
Okay, guys, you want to go?
Councillor Brown first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sharon, for your report. I was surprised to not see in your report, given that there was some discussion about it at the budget consultation about street lighting, and I wanted to ask you a question about this because it's clearly going to be there's going to be some contention about this, I think, coming into the budget meeting when we have it. I know at the budget consultation there was the discussion about this and a suggestion that the council would look at dimming the lights on places like Queen's Drive and various places around the city. Can I ask whether that's been done in conjunction with Merseyside Police? Have they been completely consulted about this? And it's not just the council thinking, right, I'm going to pick this location, that location, and has this been, you know, done in evidence? Because some places there are going to be higher crime stats and the police may not recommend that lights are dimmed in that area, but then there are going to be others where people say, well, you know, the lights are disturbing me at night, and it may make sense. So I wonder whether you might be able to clarify that point. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Kris. We have been speaking to Merseyside Police and other key partners around that proposal. It is only dimming within a certain timescale from midnight to 5 AM that we're currently proposing. So it's only dimming of street lights, and that's around also our carbon in terms of our climate change strategy as well, that we're looking to deliver for, you know, meet targets. What I would say is, in terms of community safety, it is only proposed to be a trial. So if at any time any feedback that we receive that it's not working, we will look to change. And most definitely it is evidence-based. We've been in contact with cities who have already introduced dimming of key network routes, and it's been very successful. So happy to share further information around what we're proposing.
So, okay, Kris?
Councillor Brown, if you could lower your hand if you're happy with the response, and we'll move on to our next question, which I believe is Councillor Anna Key. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions. The first one is about the e-scooters. So I very much welcome the trial in Liverpool, and so far there's a lot of positive feedback, but also concerns have been raised with me from blind and partially sighted people that those scooters sometimes just get left in very strange and unexpected places. And I imagine that would be the issue also with people with reduced mobility to navigate their way around those scooters. So I just wanted to find out what the feedback has been about those scooters and what we're doing to mitigate the negative impact for the groups I mentioned. And then the second question is just an update on Otter School Playground. You mentioned in your report sort of renovations and repairs to playgrounds. So I just wanted to see how far we are with the work on that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. For the specifics of Otters Pool Playground, I'll come back to you with a more detailed response to provide an update. Just in terms of the scooter trial, Foy, who is currently managing the trial, is well aware of some of the issues around scooters being left on pavements. However, they do have a very robust system in place where once they identify a scooter is inappropriately parked, so to speak, then they do have a marshal who attends within the hour, and that's their target. So any, misuse or any parking issues, then they will obviously attend within the hour to obviously try and get that resolved. I'm happy to share more information as well around the e-scooter. One of the things that I haven't mentioned in the report is part of this trial is that we do, as a council, have we do receive a percentage of any income generated through the trial. So currently, since September, when it commenced, we've had approximately 60k, which we are able to reinvest into our active travel programme too. So there's wider benefits for us as a council, and as the report states, we are looking to target key workers as well. Currently, through working with the NHS, we're offering free journeys to key workers, and that seems to be really successful at the moment.
Okay, Anna? Okay. Dan Bannerton.
Thanks for the report, Sharon. Mine's on e-scooters as well. Some have turned up in Nottingham recently by Alder Hay. And there's no information with them. They've just sort of been placed by the side of the pavement, but there's no sort of sign that says what they are, why they're there, how people can hire them. And there've been similar issues again with them sort of being abandoned in places. And I saw one that had been left by a bus stop and was sort of lying on the pavement, and that was there for at least a couple of hours because I went past it again. So again, just on what are we doing to actually sort of let people know in the area what they are, because it seemed a bit strange that we had no signage by them. And then just on the street lights that Councillor Brown raised as well, can we get a list of the streets that you're talking about? Because I know you mentioned it wouldn't be residential streets and mainly main roads, but obviously a lot of main roads are residential as well, so it would be interesting to see which roads we're looking at. Thanks.
Sharon?
Thanks, Dan. I will send the information around those key route networks that were proposed as part of that street lighting programme. Just what you've mentioned around the e-scooters, all the scooters are electronically traced and tagged, so they shouldn't be working outside of an area that's been approved. Alder Hay will be one of those areas because obviously we're doing a lot of work around key workers and making sure that that they have the opportunity to use the scooters, and that, as I said, does seem to be working really well. You do have a response time that if a scooter is parked up or is inappropriately parked or obstructing a pavement, to respond within an hour. I'll make sure as well that communication is more forefront in terms of communities that it is being rolled out to. Previously, it was very centred around the city centre because obviously that's where the project commenced. But now that it's starting to expand, yeah, you're quite right. We do need to have more comms and to make people aware. I am aware that Merseyside Police have been doing some comms too, to also I'd highlight the fact that what is an illegal scooter and what is part of the trial. So that's been really helpful too.
Anybody else? Sharon, can I ask that on the lights in a different street, can we get that list before the list is actioned? So if the ward members have got some issues, they can raise them before any action is taken on those particular roads or streets. So, you know, the request is that we get the list before any action is taken.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. In terms of the e-scooters, you know, I see quite an awful lot of them around Kirkdale. I assume they're people that come from the city centre and travelled out and just left them, but they seem to be all over the place, and I don't think the hour collection is working. Clearly, the hour collection is not working, so perhaps if you go back and reinforce that. How many miles do you get out of one charge on those scooters?
I will have to come back to you on that technical question around the mileage, but what I will say is we do have a good working relationship with FOI, who are managing this trial, and it is a trial as well. I mean, just to make members aware of that it's a 12-month trial, and in terms of the Liverpool e-scooter trial, it's been, you know, one of the most successful across the country so far, but do welcome any feedback on what needs to be improved and if there is any issues too, and we'll raise that with FOI, who's managing it.
In terms of vandalism, because you may well remember on the city bikes, most of the kids in Kirkdale were riding around the city bikes, and I see an awful lot of them riding around on these scooters. How much vandalism or damage are we getting on these scooters? I mean, I suspect that kids would want to get to have a look at what they do and what they don't do, but are we getting much of that across the city?
No, to be honest, no. I get a weekly report on the trial, and with all the information around incidences, any, you know, damage, and no, that's actually quite low. But I would say that, you know, what the offer is in terms of the scooter, it is quite robust, the model that's being used.
Okay, all right, thanks. Any other questions for Sharon? No? Okay, Sharon, can I thank you very much for your report? Can I move on then? Has Liz Parsons joined us? No, then can I move on then to Councillor Pam Thomas? Pam?
Is my mic working okay? Because sometimes people say you can't hear me very well.
You can hear you very well. We can hear you very well in the Cunard buildings. I was going out in those swamp.
Oh, it's like a foghorn, I know. Right, thank you, Chair. Right, I have circulated a report, and so I won't read it all out in detail. I mean, some of it I just kind of is a reminder that the priority in my role is around disabled people, because so often the systems and practices that we have don't take account of disabled people. So that means people with mobility issues, wheelchair users, but also people with visual impairment, and people with perception issues. So that could be sight or hearing, or the way they perceive things because they might be neurodiverse or have dementia and so on. But I focus on the barriers that are created rather than the different conditions people have, because we share a lot of the same barriers. I've mentioned before about the inclusive play equipment in Croxford Hall Park. This was paid through 106 money. I know there's a report later on about that, and that's going really well. And as we know, there's been a massive increase in the use of parks. So an unexpected problem has arisen in that there's so many people walking through the park, and the play area is quite close to it, that it's very difficult for social distancing. So as Ward Councillor with Councillor Barrington, we're looking at ways with the park of trying to help with social distancing, but the cost of fencing was actually through the roof. It wasn't thought to be required the way things were before. Well, because of this massive increase, which is great, we want people to use the park and the play equipment. So that was just a bit of an unexpected issue. I mean, that's not related to it being accessible, really. I mean, we don't monitor whether there's disabled children playing there, because that's actually what we want. We want all the play equipment to be usable by all the children, and they can all play together, and they're not kind of singled out as any different. They can just be children and play there. With the Corporate Access Forum, which I chair, has met a few times, I think, since I last reported to you. As has been
mentioned before, and have been concerns about cycle lanes. Some of these have been addressed, but some of them have not been fully addressed. As we've been told, they are temporary measures. So there's a difference to what you can do with things that are temporary measures when you start in afresh with something that's going to be permanent, and you can put those designs in from the outset. And also, as mentioned, CAF members have been concerned about the e-scooters, particularly as Councillor Key identified people with a visual impairment. I've raised quite a lot of concerns, particularly when they are left lying around, and there's some further work needs to be done on addressing that, because we are getting a lot of reports about them. They seem to just be abandoned, saying they're parked when they're not in the proper bay. They're just abandoned there. There's an organisation called Wheels for All, and they are people who provide bicycles or tricycles for people who can't use the ordinary bicycle. So they have adaptations to them, and they're going to be setting up in Springfield Park, and working with the hospital as well. So that's really good news, because a lot of people, disabled people who want to cycle, haven't really got anywhere where they feel safe to do so. So that's in the very early stages. So it was really good to catch up with them, that they're going to be looking at doing something. There's not many in the country that do that. Also been working with Councillor Collins, Murray and Robertson Collins on the Walking to School programme. Obviously, there's not many children in school at the moment, so we're not feeling the full effect of that. So we're working with Sustrans and Living Streets on that. So that will reduce traffic around the schools and the parking, because particularly pavement parking, which has been a really bad problem for disabled people. Either people like me, the wheelchair user, just can't get past the cars on the pavement, end up on the road, people with a visual impairment bumping into them, but also then families, young children, pushchairs and so on, trying to get through, and finding that they can't, they're just ending up on the road. So that programme really should make a good, positive impact on there. The Inclusive Design Officer's been doing really, really good work. I'm really pleased with the work he's been doing around checking planning applications to make sure that the plans that are going through take inclusive design into account. And a particular issue that I'm sure everybody knows that I'm keen on is accessible housing. And it's been really difficult to push that through, because housing developers object. So our local plan requires accessible housing. So some of it will be mobility standard, some will be wheelchair standard. The Home Builders Federation objected, as they do all around the country. But at the last hearing, which was in November, which is available on video, so I watched that, and they objected. But it was shown that their objections were founded on error. They calculated it to be really expensive, and it was shown by Kepi Massey that they were using the wrong figures. It's not as expensive as they were making out. But some developers are, when they've spoken to our inclusive design officer, have made more accessible properties. So that's really good news. I've been going to the meetings. It was called Without Walls. They're not calling it that now, which is a meeting with all the businesses, which are obviously really, really struggling in the city centre in particular, this meeting, to make sure that when things are put back in place and things are opening up, that disabled people are on their mind as well, because some things that have been put in place have actually pushed disabled people out and away from accessing the businesses. And sometimes it's forgotten that we are customers too, and we bring our family and friends. We're not just like single individuals away. Sometimes we are. And also on employment, I've been working with the Equalities Lead in our human resources to look at ways that we can increase the number of disabled people working for the authority, but those that are here are getting the support they need to do their work. Oh yeah, and this is my big thing that a few people will know. In committee reports, there's an equalities section, or equality implications, and that is about the Equality Act, because there's a public sector equality duty that every elected member is responsible to ensure that we fulfil that, and that is that disabled people and other people with protected characteristics are taken into account as in that report. And that's not done to the standard that we need to expect. So I've been trying to get information out to people who are the officers who are writing the reports to make sure they understand what's needed to be in there. And that is starting to filter through a little bit now. I'm seeing a bit of an improvement in there, but I'll keep on pressing on that. And I would encourage all members to check the equality implications and make sure that those issues are being addressed in there. And that's the summary. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Any questions? I've got Anna first. Anna?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I have two, one comment, one question. So the first one I should have actually mentioned at matters arising, because as a result of last meeting, Councillor Thomas and I met on Lark Lane and looked at accessibility issues. We spent over 2 hours in freezing cold looking at every single ramp and the lack of ramp. And some positive changes have come out of that. It's still not ideal. There are still issues that Councillor Thomas is aware of and highways are aware of, but there has been some improvement and some positive feedback as a result of that. So I just wanted to thank Councillor Thomas for her time. And also, my question is on inclusive design officer. So Festival Gardens, which is in our ward, there will be a planning application coming for the development in Festival Gardens. And can I ask Councillor Thomas to pay a lot of attention to the inclusive design, together with the inclusive design officer, to the inclusive design of those buildings, just so that they are, as inclusive as possible, considering it's a new development and a lot can be done about it to make it inclusive.
Yeah, and thanks for that. It was good to meet you in Lark Lane that day. As you say, there's still things that are problematic, and this, as I said earlier about these temporary measures, can be very difficult to resolve. And absolutely on the Festival Gardens, I will. I'm sure that the officer will be looking at those anyway, but I'll make a particular point and involve you in any discussions as well.
Anybody else got any questions?
Trying to be any indicated, Chair.
Okay, Pam, thanks very much for your report.
Thank you.
Can we move on then to agenda item 4, section 106 update? Can we now turn to pages 24 to 49 of our agenda, which will comprise a report on the section 106 process? Can I ask Councillor Sharon, Cabinet Member, to comment briefly in relation to this consent?
Thank you, Chair. The report just sets out for members what we've got in place in terms of how we are allocating 106 and that governance around in terms of the committee and how it operates, but also around some of the fantastic projects that have been taken forward as a result of the work that's been taking place. So that's all I'm happy to say about it. I'll leave it to obviously the report to be presented.
Okay, can I invite officers to reduce the report and to talk us through the key issues? I've got Andrea Dimbar and Tony Amelia. Are you doing a joint or a separate presentation? You're on mute, Andrea. You're on mute.
Sorry. Try again.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair. I'll get started, and then if there's any questions I can't answer, I'll bring in Tony at that point. The report just sets out briefly it's an update really on the meetings that we've had with the Section 106 subcommittee, which is really where the funds are allocated from Section 106 to appropriate projects. So the report sets out at the beginning just the key principles as a reminder for where the money can be spent, because we're obviously constrained on where the money can be spent. It needs to be relating to the development from which it was generated, and needs to be in the locality of that development. So the report sets out the projects that have been approved. The summary box on the table 1 that you'll have on your agenda lists, I think, all of those that were approved at the previous 2. So December 19 and the 12th of March 2020. And I think there's quite a spread there, which I think shows the kind of thing that can be delivered. There's provision of new play areas, enhancement of existing parks, improvement of biodiversity and tree planting. So I think it gives quite a nice spread and shows you the type of development, the type of project that can be funded. I don't know if, I presume that members have seen that list and don't need me to read them out.
I would hope that members have seen that list and read the reports intently, so just carry on. If they start asking questions, you know they haven't read the report properly.
Okay. The one point I would make as well is, following on from Councillor Thomas's report, is that following involvement and assistance with Councillor Thomas, we've been able to establish a protocol and a procedure for ensuring that inclusive design is incorporated to all of the projects going forward, so that before they get to the Section 106 subcommittee, they've already had that level of scrutiny and have been, the accessibility has been included in the initial design. So it's not then an add-on, it's not an ad hoc, something to be added on at the end, but it's integral to the project from now on. And I think that's been a helpful move forward for us. So our last meeting was on the 8th of December 2020, and that allocated another further around £320,000 with further projects. The report then gives an update on some of the play areas that have been improved, particularly, and gave photographs which I think are helpful for members to see exactly what has been delivered. So what have we got? We've got Allerton Towers, there was West Derby Gate, Black Rod Recreational Ground, and then went into some of the other projects, including the Florrie Community Garden and a scheme at Our Lady St Nicholas Church for lighting. So I think those are all of the issues that I would flag up at this point, and I'll see if there's any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Kris Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm trying to understand, looking at the outstanding S106 money in the list that you provided. I have asked a few questions about this in the past, particularly in relation to one development. I'm trying to understand a kind of timeline here of kind of what happens next to kind of get those money in, those monies in. So you take some of those developments, and it's already been explained how the council proceeds in trying to procure that money. But what's the kind of end goal here? If the money's not being paid through either court action or whatever it is, this is just going to roll and roll. And I'm trying to understand a kind of an end process to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, specifically in the collection of the Section 106 monies, at the moment we're using the Council's Corporate Debt Recovery Service to recover funds, but we are actively looking at ways that we can enhance that resource, and we can push further with that. So I'd say it's under active consideration at the moment, and hopefully at the next Section 106 subcommittee, or members of that, we would be able to update the subcommittee with what we've got in mind and how we can really push forward with it now, given that there are some sums that we really need to recover, and the current processes haven't seemed to deliver as quickly as we would all like.
Okay.
Anybody else want to ask any questions? And Andrea, I understand that, I'll be correct if I'm wrong, but on that list of outstanding 106 money, some of that project, for example, the 106 hasn't been paid. So as a consequence, that project does not proceed until the 106 is paid. Am I right in my understanding?
The projects that we've put forward and have been agreed by
I'm talking about the outstanding 106 monies that haven't been paid.
Yeah, if they haven't been paid, then we won't have allocated them for any project. We only allocate monies to a project where the money has actually been paid.
Yeah, my understanding, Kris, is that until a developer comes along, goes through planners, the 106 attached, if they don't, and the norm would be you pay 50% up front and then 50% on completion, for example. But until they pay the 50% up front, the plan permission doesn't kick in. So that's when you see some of the developments, they just haven't started because they haven't paid the 106. So that's money that hopefully at some point they will start and they will pay the 106. Is there any other questions that anybody wants to ask? Andrea and Tony, can I thank you for your report and also reflect on the work that this committee has done over the past few years in relation to bringing some sense of sanity, I guess, into the 106 process, because for a long time we were wandering all over the place in relation to 106, and Andrea and your team, Tony, I've really done some sterling work and brought forward a sensible understanding of how we process 106 and how organisations and communities can access the 106 for the benefit of those organisations and those communities. So thank you, Tony, and thank you, Andrea. Okay, can I, where are we?
Item number 5.
Can I move that the report is agreed? All noted heads, thank you very much. Yeah, so right. Agenda 5, item 5, sorry. Community safety report. Is Liz here now? Is Colleen here?
Yes, Chair, I am. I have joined, and apologies to the committee for being slightly late.
Right. Well, Colleen, it's the second time being slightly late. You know, the third time there is a sanction. So just be aware of that. You know.
I blame my extremely crowded diary, Chair, but I do apologise to the committee.
No apologies needed, Colleen. You want to carry on with your report?
Thank you. Well and duly chastised as well. Thank you, committee. I shan't take up a huge amount of time, but the committee will be aware that we do bring a regular report around community safety activity to this committee as part of our scrutiny of the City Safe Partnership as one of the responsible authorities for the partnership. And really for this committee's meeting, we wanted to bring to a report that captured the wide amount of activity that has happened over the course of the last 12 months, and particularly in light of some of the key issues that we have spoken about previously in relation to how we have responded and are continuing to respond to some of the challenges from coronavirus, but also some of the underlying issues that continue to challenge some of our key communities in the city. So I'd like to introduce Jenny Ewells, who is one of our job share is a job share co-head of Safer and Stronger Communities. So Jenny, please present the report that I know you and the team have worked so hard on delivering.
Thanks, Colleen. Good evening, everyone. So just to give you a bit of a quick overview of the report, I've just included there the priorities that the City Safe Partnership has agreed on. As Colleen said, this is a statutory partnership, the Community Safety Partnership, made up of police, City Council, and probation, health, universities, etc., voluntary sector. And our two absolutely main top priorities are domestic abuse and serious youth violence. But we also continue to invest and work to deliver the other priorities that you've seen in that list. And our structure remains to make sure that we still progress work very much on those priorities as well. We had in this current financial year a grant of 854,000 from the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, but we also had other resources from other sources, such as the a portion of the late night levy and a Merseyside Violence Reduction Partnership grant, and some funding from the Ministry of Justice to respond to the terrible increase in domestic abuse due to COVID. What I've done here is I've given a few sort of headlines, if you like, from some of those projects that we funded through the Crime and Disorder grant. But obviously, if you like any detail, we can provide that. And in terms of the Merseyside Violence Reduction Partnership funding, the emphasis has been very much on a public health approach, so very much about early intervention, looking at preventing young people and children at risk from going on to become, violent offenders in the future. And we've had some really interesting results that we want to sort of progress next year, if and when we can access that funding again. Some of the others I've noted our crime and disorder grant budget in the report. At the bottom, it does say a flexible fund. What we usually do every year when we agree the budget is to leave a small pot of money for any emerging risks as they may come along during the year. And some of the projects that we funded in year as a partnership were an out-of-court disposals project for female offenders to keep them out of the criminal justice system, because we know the harms that can do, to provide alternatives such as drug treatment programmes, etc., etc. And then we also funded Operation Banger, which is around mischief night and the antisocial behaviour that we can expect at that time of year. Also a project for primary schools, Kensington community cohesion work, and a video for the LGBT community around hate crime, because we identified that as an area that we wanted to invest a bit more in this year. So that really kind of sums up some of the key points. But if anyone's got any questions, I'd be happy to respond to those.
Thank you, Jenny. Has any members got any questions for Jenny or Colleen? Preferably Jenny. No? No, okay. Can again, Colleen, Jenny, I understand, and the committee understands the incredible amounts of hard work that yourselves and our staff are doing. So as a committee, I think we would want to record our thanks for the work that you've done previously and the ongoing work that you're involved in. So thank you very much. Can I note that this report is agreed? Yeah, okay, can we move on then to agenda item 6, scheme of delegation report. And if you could say on pages 62 to 68 of our agenda, this comprises reports that detail the delegated decisions made by the assistant directors for both support communities and the environment and community services directorate between the 1st of January 2020 and the 31st of December 2020. Can I invite Colleen Martin, assistant director for support and communities, to produce the report and talk us through the key issues. Colleen?
Thank you, Chair. What you have before you, committee, is obviously a summary of the decisions of the scheme of delegation decisions that myself and Kris Lomas have made on behalf of the authority and on behalf of you as members, in terms of taking forward the key policies and decisions that have been made by Cabinet. We do this on a quarterly basis, and the decisions are published in full on the internet. So obviously both you and the members of the public have access to that as part of our transparency and decision making. Rather than going through the detail of the list, I'm happy to take myself and Kris Lomas, who is on the call as well, are both happy to take any questions if there's any queries about the decisions that we've taken. Thank you.
Kris, are you okay?
Sorry, I'm here, Chair.
Well done, Kris. Welcome back. Hope everything's okay. Do you want to add anything into Colleen's report, or are you happy to?
No, happy to take any questions if about any of those decisions. But as Colleen said, they are all publicly available via the website as well, where the full detail of the decision making and the background to the decision is contained.
Okay, thanks, Kris, and welcome back. Anna, you wanted to ask a question?
It's referring to
St Michael's, or is it the one in Egmouth Road?
I'm sorry, Councillor Key, I missed the beginning of your question. I think there was a bit of an issue with the microphone. Could you repeat your question in totality of the report that you're referring to?
Yes, page 67, item 7 top. So it's Egmouth Cricket Club. Two. One is St Michael's Cricket Club, which is also referred to as Egmouth Cricket Club, and one is Egmouth Cricket Club in Cressington. So I'm assuming that's the one in St Michael's, but before I ask my question, I just wanted to double check that that's the one you mean.
I think, Kris, that's a decision that you will have taken under sport and recreation.
Kris, I think you're on mute.
Is that the asset of community value decision?
I think we've lost something in translation here, Kris.
Okay, I'm just trying to, Chair, oh, hello, Chair, I'm back, sorry. I was just saying to Councillor Key, is that the decision around the community value?
Yes.
Answer?
Yes.
Oh, right, sorry. We just couldn't, I'm sorry, I'm not, I can't see that. I'm not sure when it was taken.
It's DPCS 66.20 taken on the 20th of, sorry, the 17th of August 2020.
Oh, right, okay.
List Egmouth Cricket Club as an asset of community value to include building and landowners and Egmouth Cricket Club as an asset of community value.
Right, okay. And I'm the decision maker on that one, am I?
Tonight you are, yeah.
I think you are. I can't recall that one. I can't recall doing that. Both Kris and I do these, Chair. So apologies. Just if I help,
can I be helpful? Can I ask both of you to come back to Anna?
We will do
with the response.
Probably better because there's a big list of them, and I've got to be absolutely honest. I can't recall the full detail of everything on the list. So if I just provide the full background report to Councillor Key, that's probably easiest, rather than trying to blag it here and make a fool of myself, or even more of a fool of myself than I already am.
I think, Councillor Key, you raised, obviously, it's which Egmouth Cricket Club it is, because it's not detailed on the summary. If you ask your question here, and we can verify which one it is, but also come back to you on your question. So what was your broader question that you wanted to ask?
So I'm assuming that
it's just breaking up, Anna. You're breaking up, Anna. You're just breaking up. Can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Hear you now, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm assuming it's Egmouth Cricket Club, which is in St Michael's Ward, in opposed to the one in the Cressington of Egmouth Road. And I just wanted to raise here that we've been trying to sort of like save this club, because it's looking like, you know, it's a valuable community asset, but without urgent intervention from the council, we're likely to lose it. The owners don't reply to inquiries. We've done letters. A letter came as well from the mayor a while ago, and the lease is up in November. So I was wondering whether it's possible to instigate a community purchase order to start proceedings for that cricket club.
Okay, Chair, I might be able to respond to Councillor Key's question in terms of what the decision around making an asset of making something an asset of community value does, but what it doesn't do as well. So in putting in place an asset of community value order, or declaring something an asset of community value, basically puts a status on the building that allows a community group or a community interest company or charity to seek to try and gain resources to purchase potentially an asset of community value if it is at risk of being sold, and it effectively puts a stay on any sale to give that community organisation or interested organisation time to develop a business plan and resource within kind of a 6-week period. And if they can demonstrate that they've got a plan, it does allow that kind of 6-month period. that is not the same as obviously the council intervening to undertake a community purchase order. So there is a very specific kind of set of procedures, if you like, that a community organisation can follow, and the council identifying it as an asset of community value gives the community organisation that opportunity, but it does not create the situation whereby the council would take on a compulsory purchase order. So I'm more than happy to have a further discussion with you, Councillor Key, about kind of the asset of community value and the concerns, but that is it is quite a bit different in terms of what you're asking, and the resource investment. It's about giving the community or the community group that's expressed the interest of saying it's an asset of community value, which is about demonstrating its social and cultural value to the community, the opportunity to be able to save it, but it does not fully and completely prevent any sale in future, and it doesn't certainly set the tone for kind of its DPO. So, but happy to take any full detail. Happy to have a further discussion offline about that.
Okay.
Happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Kris Brown.
Yeah, I actually found your discussion about the community asset community value quite interesting. I'm putting in an application for something. I just wondered on the back of that. Liverpool has not too many assets listed from the last time I looked at the list, and I think it's one of the good things of the Localism Act in 2011. I wonder whether we might be able to do a briefing for all members at some point. Happy to help with that with officers about how you can promote the asset community value, because I don't know how many members know so much about it, but it's a great tool in my opinion.
It's certainly something we can take up with committee services and explaining that. I know it's an issue that has come up and just giving that clarity. So I will explore it with committee services about member briefing about that.
Okay, if you come back to me, please, Colleen. Yeah. Jamie Colleen.
Sorry, what was the question, Chair?
I said you will come back to me as well, yeah?
Yes, yeah, no, I'll come back to you, Chair, absolutely.
Okay, thanks for that, Kris. Is there any other questions from the committee? Okay, just again, welcome back, Kris, and I know you wouldn't try to blag anybody, least of all me. But it's nice to see you back, and Colleen, thanks both of you for the report. Can I agree? Find that the report is agreed. Everybody happy? Yeah. Okay then. Can I move on then to agenda item 7? Is the motion making street harassment a crime by Councillor Kris Brown. Kris.
Thank you, Chair. In presenting this motion, I hope that perhaps we could have cross-party support on this. I don't think there's anything in there that suggests that we can't have that. If you listen to the radio, though, I have already committed us to supporting it. So you need to support it tonight. But of course, we can have a debate about it should you wish. I mean, look, where this came about for me, and I'm sure you've got your own stories as councillors and perhaps as individuals, is that somebody came to myself and my ward colleagues a little while ago about an individual who she was walking along the street and somebody had made inappropriate comments to them. And she responded and said, politely said, would you stop it? The individual then proceeded and said to her, well, at least you could give us a smile. And it's those kind of situations. Now that individual then comes to myself and says, well, gives a description. What can you do about it? You go to the police and you give that description and say, well, if we see anything, if we see the individual about, and if we see anything, then we'll intervene on that. But there's nothing specific. There's nothing specific in law that makes that a crime in this country. And this is what this motion's about. Now, I know that a lot of members have campaigned on this. I've seen other members campaign, not just with Our Streets Now, who are doing fantastic work on this, but have done some stuff with Reclaim the Night and other organisations. This is basically calling on the Home Secretary to make this a crime. Now, in France, Belgium, and Portugal. This already is a specific crime. I think in 2016 the first case was issued on this, where an individual was fined €3,000 for harassment against a police officer. But we don't have a process. There's kind of no kind of A to B process of how this kind of comes about. And of course, this is a human rights issue. You know, it affects women and young girls particularly, but you know, it's also about different groups as well as ethnic minorities. And I actually want to say thank you to Liz Makinson, who added a little line into the motion, and it's probably why the formatting slightly messed up on the thing about trans women as well, is that they're more likely to receive harassment, either physical or verbal, than anyone else. Anyway, I mean, look, I mean, I can go on. The motion's there. We're calling on the Home Secretary to act on this. Obviously, we can't change the law as a local authority, but it's about putting pressure. There are other local authorities who have passed a similar motion, cross-party. A friend of mine brought a motion to this on Oldham Council, and that was passed. And it's about sending a clearer message on this. And, you know, if we pass this today, I'd encourage yourselves, the mayor of the city region, whoever, to put pressure on the government on this. And I hope that we can have some cross-party support on this. So I will leave it there. Disagreements, questions, whatever.
Okay, thanks for that, Kris. You've articulated the motion quite well, and you'd be pleased to know that you have got cross-party support on this. Liz has been doing some work on it. Again, it's the ethos behind this council, it's the ethos behind this city. So I'm more than happy to recommend that you get cross-party support and be recorded as such. You've got the hand up there.
Clean Hanson. Clean Hanson.
That's great, Chair, and I will make sure that any comms that I do on this recognises that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Brilliant.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Parsons isn't here, and you've obviously alluded to the position that she has, I was also going to recommend, and Councillor Parsons would have done this as chair, that we also take the motion and some of the actions that have been identified to the Equality Task Group, which is made up of members that Councillor Parsons chairs, particularly picking up some of the educational issues, and just to refer it to there as well, to see what we can do in the absence of legislation, and obviously bringing the issue to the fore as well.
Okay, can I find the grievance of the committee on the cross-party support? Is that agreed? Okay, well done, Kris, and thank you, Colleen, for doing some work in the background for us. Move on then to question time. Kris, you've got your question. Have you got your answer?
Yes and no, Chair. Sorry, I know I've spoken a lot today, and I guess my
question. Yes, you have, Kris. You've pushed your luck today. Go on, I need to bring this into the public, and I know. I mean, I see the answer there, and I'm sure perhaps Chris Lomas might want to respond to me, because I know we've been having correspondence over this. Now, this has obviously been going on for quite some time, and follows the death of the individual who was killed by a falling branch in the Black Wood. I understand that the HSE had obviously required the council, and I know there's other sensitivities going on with this as well, so which I don't know if it's appropriate to mention at the committee. But I understand now that the HSE have said that you know, they're satisfied with some of the remedial work which Liverpool have done, and that Liverpool now are looking at doing additional remedial work, something to do with platforms, for example, that needs to be raised at some of the strengthening of some of the trees around the woods. A couple of questions, and I may follow up if on different questions depending on what the answers to this. Those strengthening works, can I ask what in relation has been done into that? So the ones on the inside where the incidents happened, has the remedial work and the strengthening work been completed on the inside of the woods? Can I suggest that I mean, I'm not stopping asking the question, but can I suggest that you sit down with the officers involved so you can get the level of detail that you're requesting?
Well, I only ask this because I think I just think we're kind of reached the point where a lot of people are asking a lot of questions, and I'm obviously trying to get some immediate answers for people. I guess the question that that perhaps could be answered now is if the remedial work has been done to the inside of the woods, and I understand that road closures may need to take place to do some of the outside stuff, what is stopping the reopening for people to go inside the woods? Surely, I mean, you won't be able to stop people walking past on the streets where you're going to have the road closures. I don't understand why people can't go into the woods currently if the work has been completed on the inside. I don't know if Kris wants to pick up some of these.
I'm quite happy to answer that. The reality is, following the sad death of a member of the public, and I'm conscious that the inquest into his death has not commenced yet. We've worked throughout the last year with the Health and Safety Executive to make sure that we've satisfied their requirements in terms of the investigation that they naturally carry out into a death of this nature. We have submitted, as well as do what called a survey of the site, we've done a survey of the site that's involved using cherry pickers. We've also done some resistograph testing on the integrity of some of the trunks and boughs within the park. There is some work that still needs completing both around the outside of the park in terms of some trees that have been, as a result of those intensive surveys, anything that's been red rated as a severe risk has to be attended to. So I think the fact is we've done more intensive surveying than we were originally perhaps going to undertake, because public safety is absolutely paramount, and I'm personally, as the accountable officer legally, not going to open the woods until I'm absolutely satisfied that we've done everything possibly that we'd be expected to do following such a serious incident to make sure public safety is maintained. I completely understand the frustration of local residents because it is a key green space asset, but the severity of what happened there means that I'm just, as the senior responsible officer, the person who could ultimately go to prison if things went the wrong way. I'm not going to sanction the reopening of the woods until I'm absolutely satisfied that our contractors have completed all the works to my satisfaction and all that work is signed off. I'm hoping that will be completed now. There's some work taking place I think there's some work possibly started today or tomorrow. I did have an update earlier. I'm hoping that it will. Our plan, to be honest, is to have it open by the time that the clocks change, and you would expect people to want to, get out more in the evenings, etc., and the days are a little bit longer. So that's the time scale I'm working to. Now that HSC have said they're satisfied with what we're doing, but as I say, maybe I'm being overcautious, but that's as I say, that's my position on it.
Thank you, Kris. And at the end of the day, you can't be overcautious, mate. At the end of the day, it's a judgment call. At the end of the day, you're the one legally responsible. So, it's your call, and we should all accept that and support that call. Sharon, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just want to say thank you. I just want to say, obviously, Councillor Brown did get a response to his question, and also just to obviously echo what Kris has just mentioned around, it is still a very sensitive issue, and we will not be pushed into reopening the woods until we are confident that it is fully safe to do so. So I just wanted to make that very clear. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to comment? Okay. Well, that concludes the debate discussion on that particular item. Just before I close the meeting, this is the last meeting of the cycle. As we're all aware, we're supposed to be going for elections in May, so the constitution of this body may change. But from a chair's perspective, Can I thank everybody, including all the different political persuasions within this group, for the way you conducted yourselves through the last 12 months. That has been difficult, but this is probably a long-standing committee with long-standing committee members, and you just carried on with the standards that we have set for many years now, and that includes the contributions made from the opposition parties. And perhaps if somebody could say, Anna, you go back to Lawrence and say he's got my thanks for the contribution he made during the time that he spent on this committee. So on that point, thank you all keep safe, and I'm going to close the meeting. Good night, God bless.